Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we're going to be talking about M3GAN 2.0. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. So, can't really talk about 2.0 without really going over the 1.0, the original, right? So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about M3GAN the original. Came out in early 2023. It was a Blumhouse horror flick, and initially, when I heard the premise, I saw like this poster. I was like, whatever. It's just another killer doll movie, like a new age Chucky, if you will. But then I watched the trailer, and that trailer, boy, did it sell me on the movie because it started out like so normal and then took a turn when M3GAN here decided to like run on all fours. And then of course, how could I forget the iconic dancing? Like that part in the trailer turned a lot of heads, made a lot of people pay attention. People were like, okay, this movie's gonna be something. And like with that trailer, I was like, okay, this feels like something I should watch and experience because I thought it was gonna be like a so bad it's good movie. Well, to my surprise, when I watched the movie, it turned out it was not ironically good, but legitimately good. So the memeability of M3GAN's dancing combined with the good reception of the movie, it led to like a perfect storm which resulted in the movie doing very well financially, opening with $30 million. And keep in mind, this was like during when Avatar 2 like dominated everything. So this was like in Avatar 2's shadow, but even then, still did great for itself. Had really solid legs. Made 95 million domestically, 181 million worldwide on a budget of like $12 million. Yeah, yeah, makes sense that a sequel exists. I mean, how could it not? Since Universal made a nice little profit off the original. So yeah, the success of the first movie and its reputation, obviously that's a pro, so that's pro number 1. Pro number 2 is the fact that in terms of direct competition, the only thing out there is 28 years later, but even then that's like a different breed of horror. That's more like zombie horror. This is more like robo horror. So it's not the same. And there won't be like any horror movies coming out until I think I Know What You Did Last Summer. And that's not till like mid July, so like 3 weeks from now. So it's got time. This movie has time to play out, theoretically. But so, yeah, just lack of, I guess, extreme competition. I'll label that as, I guess, direct competition, I should add. I'll label that as a pro. Um, any other pros? Well, okay, reviews aren't great for this movie, but its audience reception isn't that bad, really. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. Judge this comes from someone who's seen the movie. I thought it would be a lot worse, but yeah, 83% audience score, a B plus cinema score, which is actually higher than the original, which got a B, which shocks me quite a lot because I'm just be very blunt. I didn't like M3GAN 2.0. It wasn't the movie I wanted it to be, so I was disappointed, and I thought more people would feel disappointed. But I guess I'm just alone in that department. I don't know, but the audience reception isn't fatal, so I'll label that as a pro. And I think that's it. With pros. Okay, cons. Blumhouse. Ugh, so Blumhouse. I talk about them a lot because they really saw a lot of horror movies. And for most of their, existence, they've had a lot of success. You know, Going all the way back to like the first paranormal activity movies. Yeah, like that. and then Paranormal Activity 2, and Insidious, Paranormal Activity 3, and Sinister, the Paranormal Activity 4, then The Purge, and Insidious Chapter 2, Purge Anarchy. Not really counting Whiplash. I mean, I guess it was a hit, but it's not really a horror movie. But anywho, then you have like Ouija here. And like that's the thing with Blumhouse. Like even if their movie does bad, at least it won't lose like a ton of cash. So and if a movie, even if it just does okay, it'll still make a profit because the budget is just that small. So yeah, like mid-range movies like Boy Next Door and Lazarus Effect and Unfriended. Stuff like that. Insidious Chapter 3, then The Visit. I keep going up. The Purge Election Year, and Split and Get Out, both being very strong hits. And then Happy Death Day, and then Insidious Last Key. First Purge. I guess I can count Black Klansman, but again, that's not a horror movie. Halloween was a big hit, in 2018. You had like Glass and Ma. Like Ma did all right. The Invisible Man. Then we gotta keep scrolling up. There's like I guess Forever Purge and Halloween Kills and Black Phone. Halloween Ends did if. And then you have M3GAN, the original, and then Insidious Red Door, and then Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not counting Exorcist Believer because that movie it was a disappointment and it killed, an intended trilogy, so I'm not going to count it as a winner. But they have a lot of success. But boy, they've had a lot of duds recently from a financial standpoint. Even before then, like they're like here and there. There's nothing like too serious, but they existed. Movies like Dark Skies. Trying to find some others. I mean, The Gallows. No one even remembers that movie. Gem and the Holograms. Movie that only lasted like 2 weeks. Literally 2 weeks in theaters. But I'm trying to like find like serious disappointments, not movies like no one ever heard. I guess Birth of a Dragon that did really bad. Happy Death Day to You was a big disappointment, which was kind of a shock to me. Black Christmas was a movie that never should have been made. Fantasy Island did like all right. The Hunt, I'm not going to count The Hunt because that movie had to deal with circumstances that were completely beyond its control, but from a political standpoint and just I guess a medical standpoint with culture war and COVID, like that double whammy. So I'm giving that a pass. And I'm giving Freaky, considering when it came out, I'm giving that a pass too. But Firestarter, that was a dud. No one remembers that movie. And I already talked about Exorcist Believer. But ever since like after Five Nights at Freddy's, something has not been right with Blumhouse. It feels like none of their movies have been able to click. None of their movies have been able to, really break out. Like Night Swim, Imaginary, Afraid is just a straight up bomb. Speak No Evil did all right, but then you have Wolfman, a movie that completely flopped. A movie I thought would be the big movie of January, and I was very much wrong about that. And The Woman in the Yard went nowhere, and then Drop did better comparatively, but still didn't set the world on fire. Now here we are with M3GAN 2.0. So as you can see here, Blumhouse hasn't been doing great for like almost 2 years now. So they're on a cold streak. Will M3GAN 2.0, stop that cold streak? No. As you'll soon find out, it very much is not. So yeah, Blumhouse. At this point, I'm feeling their box office poison. Their name is box office poison. I'm starting to really believe that, judging by what I'm seeing from M3GAN 2.0. But Yeah, Blumhouse, their recent track record been rather lackluster, so that's a con. Another con is the fact that those preview numbers are really pathetic, just straight up pathetic. 1.5 million for previews. Let's compare that to the first movie. Keep in mind, the first M3GAN came out the beginning of January, right? So no one's like people are going to the movies, but Thursday previews you think they'd be very poor, right? Because who the hell goes to the movies on Thursday in January, right? Well, its Thursday previews were 2.75 million. M3GAN 2.0, a movie that's opening in June, so it should have an advantage because more people will be able to go to watch Thursday previews. The fact that it made like a little more than half of the first movie, that spells disaster. Straight disaster. So, yeah. Yeah. Preview numbers, bad. So that's a con right there. And some other cons. Okay, this movie, there's like two things that one could label like fatal flaws, that this movie has to deal with. First thing is the fact that, M3GAN, the first movie, is kind of like a gimmicky type movie where the gimmick is that, oh, you have like this, you know, intended like toy, right? This intelligent, like AI fused, toy, and then it goes rogue and just does whatever the hell it wants, including murder, right? Right? It's very much like a gimmick. When you do a gimmick more than once, it could be very risky. Like it's like telling a joke twice. Like the first time it'll be like hella funny, but you tell it twice, it's gonna be less funny. So the law of diminishing returns. A great example of this actually is the movie Ted. Like I thought about this like last night, and I was like, yes, this is the perfect example. Which is funny since like both Ted and M3GAN were seen as like companions to like their main characters. They were meant to be like regular old toys, and they became something more. So Ted came out in 2012. Seth MacFarlane's first movie. So the whole premise of Ted is like, oh, it's supposed to be a normal teddy bear, but then, thanks to magic, he comes to life and he becomes like this foul mouth, pot smoking, you know, Peter Griffin sounding, teddy bear. And people thought it was, that's pretty funny. And people, fell in love with the concept, which resulted in the movie making serious bank at the box office. Look at these numbers. These are amazing for an R-rated comedy. Like they really are, especially an original R-rated comedy. But let's look at Ted 2. Because you think Ted 2 would be a smash hit because of the success of the first movie. That is not what happened. Ted 2 did a whole lot worse than the first Ted. As you can see here, worst opening weekend, worst final total. Yeah, worse in every department. So, yeah. Yeah, Ted 2 was a bit of a, well, not a flop, definitely a disappointment. But, granted, things are a little different here. Ted had, the show on Peacock, which did very well for itself, and it's getting another season, as well as like an animated, show at the same time. So, I mean, Ted it ultimately worked out. It just took, a show. M3GAN's probably not going to get a show, so it's not really apples, not quite apples to apples. But point is, when you have like a movie that's centered around like a gimmick of sorts, it can work once, but doesn't mean it's gonna work again. So yeah, there's that. That trap is a con. Even like worse trap, even bigger con is the fact that this movie, like compared to the first movie, it changed genre. That's something you just don't do with sequels. That's not something you should do. Because what that does, you risk alienating people who liked the first movie, right? because the first M3GAN's like this campy horror flick, but the sequel goes to more like an action movie direction, and and the result of that is people are going to be like, what the hell is this? Like, this is this even M3GAN anymore? Like, this thing right here, changing genre, this is what killed Joker 2. Joker was its own thing, like this, I guess you could say like psychological, you know, comic book movie about this very mentally ill man, right? And people, liked it. And it was like a big old sensation. With the sequel, they were like, you know what we should do? Let's make it a musical. And yeah, surprise, surprise, people hated that. And Joker 2 ended up being rejected by the public, pretty much, the movie going public, and became the biggest disaster of 2024. So the same thing is kind of going on here, where you take the first M3GAN and then you change it into something that it's not really sticking the landing. It's not really, it doesn't really feel like an upgrade. It feels more like a downgrade. So yeah, yeah, changing the genre from like movie to movie, not a good idea. So that's a con too. Another con is that blockbuster competition is going to be very intense. Next week is Jurassic World Rebirth. The week after that is Superman. I don't think this movie's going to survive that. I think this movie's just going to die real quick. Because, obviously a lot of these June movies, like, they're going to go by the wayside by the time we get to like the second weekend of July. So yeah, dealing with these mega blockbusters, that's not going to help anything. So yeah, that's a con right there. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I mentioned like all the main points. Okay, so opening weekend. This movie is projected to open with $10 million. Yes, 10 million. Let's go back to the first M3GAN, just so I can really show you just how bad that is. M3GAN, what was its opening day? 11.7 mil. So M3GAN 2.0, which has a summer release date, prime summer release date at that, is gonna make less than 3 days than what the first movie made its first day. Let that sink in. So, and it's gonna probably open like 2/3 less, which is just horrible, absolutely appalling for a sequel. So yeah, yeah, and it's total. I don't see this M3GAN 2. I don't see it having a long life. I'd be shocked if it did. I really would. Um, I'm gonna say between 20 25 million total. That's what I'm gonna stick with. So it literally is done no better than like recent Blumhouse movies. Which, if I were Black Phone 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 2, I would be hella concerned right now, because if M3GAN can't be a hit, then like what chances those movies have? Although I am looking forward to Black Phone 2. I don't want that movie to flop, but I feel like the Blumhouse name has just become just toxic. I guess that's how you would describe it. It's become just toxic, and I guess horror fans don't really want to associate themselves with Blumhouse anymore. That's the vibe I get. They've all moved on to other things, arguably better things. Like movies like Sinners and Final Destination Bloodlines, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not like horror's dying or anything. It's that people just are ignoring Blumhouse. They're like giving it like the cold shoulder. So how Blumhouse fixes this, I don't know, but yeah, their name is box office poison at this point. And that's the end of the weekend. Only a 2 movie weekend, which I'm glad to see, because I really hate doing like 4 or 5 movie weekends. Like, absolutely despise it. So to see only 2, it's great. And you know what's even better? Next week I only have to deal with 1 movie. Actually, next 2 weeks only 1 movie. But like next week I could do a special Wednesday box office prediction because Jurassic World Rebirth is coming out Wednesday. So I'm doing that special midweek one. And I'm not really looking forward that much to Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm not like over the moon about it. Like if it's good, then like it's good. If it sucks, then it just sucks. Like it's not gonna it's not gonna affect me much. The movie I actually really want to talk about is Superman, but that's not till 2 weeks from now, so nothing I can do about that. But yeah, Jurassic World Rebirth, that will be next Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I made this year or the past few years. You want to watch any of them, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I went over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I talked about M3GAN 2.0 3 times. The first time was episode 171. I talked about it alongside Bew is Afraid, Night Swim, The Hill, and The Machine. That was the first time I talked about it. Second time was episode 234, where I talked about it alongside the Fantastic Four. Well, it wasn't called First Steps yet, just Fantastic Four. Thunderbolts didn't have the asterisk yet. And Coyote versus Acme, where in the title I saw when Might Be Dead. Turns out past me was wrong because it actually will see the light of day next year. So I'm glad I was wrong on that front. And then the last time I talked about M3GAN 2.0, it was episode 247. So there I talked about a bunch of horror movies actually. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Black Phone 2, City 6, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Legacy sequel. So yeah, those are the 3 times I've talked about M3GAN 2.0. So if you want to watch those cancel episodes or any other ones I've done, I did 250 episodes. So you want to binge them all from beginning to end, I highly suggest you do that. So go do it. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. June recap will come out the second weekend of July, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.